Hey y'all, happy Saturday, and we are back for week 42, and this one's going to be a lot of fun because we will be jelly printing. I'm going to show you one of my favorite techniques in jelly printing. I have a lot of favorite ones, but this is one that I've never shown here on YouTube. We do it in my patrons, but it's a fun one, and it has a lot to do with this week's element of nature. So let's get started. This is a pretty lengthy prompt, so hang in there with me. But your reward is going to be a really cool jelly printing session that's going to be easy, but like I'll show you how I use it. I love it a lot. So week 42, gratitude for the elements of nature, water. So this week we're going to focus in on water. In the ancient art, archaeology, and science, the symbols of the elements appear everywhere. Symbols are known to transcend the ages, carrying knowledge separate from written or spoken thoughts. As artists, we are maestros of the symbol, and so it is only appropriate for us to journey into the land of symbols and much of the lost knowledge that our forebears understood and used daily. These symbols were carved into the daily utensils, on walls, within the structure of the homes. We think of them as caves. They're just all over the place, right? Throughout the village and the daily use of these symbols as a way to communicate and use information. We inherit these artifacts, but little as general knowledge is truly understood about the symbols. As creators whose artwork will live well beyond our years, it is important to investigate these symbols as a way to expand our visual vocabularies and push them into the timeless realm of the symbol. Signs and symbols rule the world, not words and laws. That's from Confucius. So true. Let's look at our relationship to water, how we use it, how we regard it, how often we use it in our day, and especially how often it appears during our art creation process. Water is in our paints, inks, stamp pads, and glues. We use it to clean our brushes and other tools. We're drinking some form of it as we create, while maybe diffusing essential oils. It is even helping keep alive our plants that we have around us as we create. These are just a few uses to consider and hold in gratitude. I find that water as a symbol inspires me, and so many of my ideas flow from the circle and the inverted triangle. The first thing that may come to mind when you think of water is how important it is, including ourselves, that think about all of the life forms on the planet that depend on water to thrive. Next, give some thought to water's physical qualities. How would you describe them? Wet, clear, and fluid are just a few that come to mind. Feel into the different kinds of water one can come across on the planet. How does fresh water differ from salt water? Are you drawn to one more than the other? Next, let's feel into the essence of water and the energies that it harnesses. If you think about how water travels in a river or through the soil, it is evident that it has gifts of communication across wide ranges. Water has touched infinite places on the earth. One drop can carry memories that reach across millions of years of Earth's story. In our bodies, it plays a key role in transporting messages fluidly. Its qualities also manifest themselves in the body's ability to create and give birth to new life. As a mysterious element, water can disappear in no time on a hot day in front of our eyes. It is thought by the elves that the wind takes the water back, as the elves believe the water originated from the wind to carry it along if the fire gets too dominant. The heat of the fire seems to represent a natural elemental enemy of water, but also vice versa. Water can extinguish fire, and fire can make water evaporate. I mean, it's just like this beautiful dance of these elements. And, I sort of, depending on what is needed by Gaia, these elements respond. I love that dance. The spiritual nature of water also represents a contemplative moment of searching the inner self and discovering our deepest aspects. Water is known to encourage inspiration, creation, birthing of ideas, dreams, and desires. Water has been thought to be influenced by the moon. It is symbolic for independence, freedom, wisdom, healing, and tranquility. Blue, purple, and white are the colors of water. Water as an element is represented by an inverted triangle. The alchemical magical symbol of water is an inverted triangle, symbolizing downward flow. The downward pointing triangle is an ancient symbol of femininity, being a representation of female genitalia. One of the 4 alchemical elements, water has the properties cold and moist, and symbolizes intuition, the unconscious mind, and the closing, generating forces of the womb. In an alchemical process, the symbol can be a drop or a wave depending on how its use is being directed. The circle is also known to represent water in art, astrology, and alchemy, and it is thought to be formless, flowing in all directions equally. The colors blue, white, and purple, and fluid, smooth, and cool textures all symbolize water. In nature, the element of water can be found in communication and memory in the geometric shapes of circles and triangles. So during this week of creating art, working in our journals, and even as we take walks or fix our meals, let's listen closely to the many inspirations of this elixir. So just enjoy the journey and just, let's get refamiliarized with something so common and so essential to life, water, and just creating a new relationship to it and listen to what she's saying and how we'll bring this back into our visual vocabularies. I just love it. So that's our prompt. And let's look at what I did with last week's images, and then we're going to be off to working on our jelly plate. So these are the 2 that I did last week. And then these are what I did on Patreon. So kind of continue to work with the printables, which is this down here, of course, and this here. And then just using other layers of color, a cowrie shell, and that's water, of course. And this, I just love, this is almost one of my faves. I just really love that one. And this one too. So just working with image, sort of do these collages. So we're going to get started. We're going to pull out our jelly plates, and we're going to make some of these really watery backgrounds. And so using water, some various acrylics, some of our spray stains and what have you. I just love making these backgrounds, and I create these on the jelly plate, and we use them to be backgrounds for my collage, things like that. So for instance, like I may take just this beautiful, very, vintage piece of Japanese paper that's like, 100 and something years old, and then like just choosing a background. I may just simply use this as a way to frame this beautiful old document, and just having that really subtle etheric water kind of feel behind it. And from there, even up to, more complex collages. But I just make a lot of these and have them as backgrounds when I'm getting ready to do some collaging. So I thought, let's have some fun on the jelly plate. Let's make these. It's a new, it's an interesting technique. And so we'll get to it. All right, let's get started. Now I'm going to start with a completely unactivated plate. This is fresh out of the case, and it is going to take a minute to sort of build up, but I think there's some value in you all seeing, like it takes a few pulls to really kind of start getting the plate to do what we want it to do. I'm going to be using watercolor paper. This is 300 GSM, so it's probably about a 40-something pound weight, maybe probably 40 to 48, something like that. It's 300 GSM. It's a 9x12, and it's a smooth, so it's considered a cold press paper. It's a smooth, it's no texture in it. You could use the textured paper as well. I do, but for this, I have this available, so we're going to go with that. But before we start using that, we've got to get this plate going because this paper is thick and it's going to be very absorbent. So the more moisture I can actually get in this paper, the better it's going to be. So with watercolor paper, you really want to make sure that your plate is doing what you want it to do. So I'm going to use some copier paper. This is the Hammermill premium color copy, which is decent paper so that I'm not wasting any paint in this process. Plus I have some dark colors on here that I want to get off. So we're just going to get started. I think I'll just start with a white. This is golden zinc white in the fluid. And let's get I can use this sprayer here. This is good enough. So I'm going to start off first just by getting, now this, you know, you don't have to you really sort of want things to be a little painterly. We're not trying to get it, let me get my paintbrush too, because I definitely use a paintbrush in this process. We really want this to have a very kind of painterly effect, so I do use a brush, and for this technique I use alcohol. So alcohol is going to act as the water aspect of this. You can also use this with watercolors, but you'll see what's going to happen here. We're going to activate some pretty cool stuff. I'm using Tim Holtz Distress Stains, and I'm also going to use Seth Apter's. And many of you already have these, so. And I'm just going to kind of get in and just get to working, because I've kind of got to get things started here. So we're going to put the first bit down. And I'm going to be cleaning the plate right now, so a lot of the old ink is going to start, and paint is going to start coming off. So the alcohol, why do you use alcohol? Because it will see, we start getting these really nice sort of watery backgrounds, and we're just getting started. That's not anywhere near where we're going to be. Do some more of this. I think I'm going to get a little bit of quinacridone down here. I kind of do separate my plate into a couple color, like into at least 2 different color fields. So, but the alcohol gives us this really watery, but we also get a resist with it, but it dries fast. So you don't you don't get this you don't get too much color. I'm using gathered twigs. You don't get too much water going. So it dries a lot faster. And it also acts as a resist, which I like. You get a lot of that sort of stone patterns and things like that. Now you could use this technique in a lot of ways. You could actually just do this as a beginning surface and then come back and stencil or do kind of other printmaking on the plate. Oh, look at that. Love it. So you could just use this as a beginning process. That looks so good. And it's going to dry really fast, which is what we like. Or like I like to do, I use these as a background for my collages. So even like the collages we were doing last week, I definitely use it for that as well. But, larger scale pieces. So let's get some gathered twig. I really like how these distress stains, and also the Izinks also kind of put down a pattern that acts as a resist with the alcohol. So the alcohol is the real key here. So we just have so much fun with this. Just kind of get these really, I'll put it up closer. And when it dries, I'll show you again. But just this really beautiful stone patterning and what have you. Use as a background field. Where is, let me use this pink from the Dollaroni. So when I want to push back some of the color, go to a lighter color and leave what's on the plate, because you're already going to have quite a bit of spray on there. So probably what I would do is I just kind of play as I go. Let's see, let's use honey. And some more. Could actually, once you've spread it out like that, and see, we're going to start getting that stoning when you actually put the paint straight on there. I mean the alcohol. See, it really picks up a lot, but that's okay because it's going to dry fast. If that were water, you know, it'll be taking forever to dry. It also could possibly rip the paper. And you just get all these extra benefits of working with the alcohol in terms of the kind of, oh yeah, this is good, kind of design it makes. See, so we get these really very interesting sort of color field. So I think this is looking pretty good. Let me get this white as well. This is the Dollaroni. And I just kind of, you know, work back and forth between different paints. Come on. I know I've got enough in here to work with. So let's put that down. I also like to use the Waverly chalk paints. So I'm going to go with this. This is like a gray. And you really get some nice effects with the chalk paint because it's more of a matte finish. So don't overlook your matte finish paints. Oops, that came out awful fast. I don't even know if it's stirred up. Did I stir this up? Probably not. Let me just shake it. Okay, but we have enough here to work with, so let's come back kind of to get a gray tone. And then we're going to get some water here. I mean, some alcohol. So to create this, you see, we get this real paintbrush kind of effect too, which I really like. So we're not using the brayer. So now I'm going to get the black soot and just kind of get a field of it. And then coming back with some of the so we're really getting that stone pattern. Let me lift it up so you can see. You see why we get this stoning? That adds considerably to the look. So I'll go ahead and get a piece of watercolor paper now. We're good now. Should be ready for it. And the other thing about this is nice, it doesn't dry fast. So you got enough time to kind of lay stuff down and work. You see I'm doing a different approach with the thicker paper because I don't want to go sliding off, you know, until it starts absorbing the paint. if you just kind of put it down and start pressing really quickly, you could actually have some slippage because there's a lot of liquid on the plate. And because the paper is thick, you know, we can spend time really letting it absorb. Oh my goodness, see? And what it does on watercolor paper is just beautiful. So if you, whatever, you know, I find I love using the watercolor paper because it's thicker. Watercolor paper is designed to absorb a lot of moisture, and you just get a completely different kind of print. But just how nice that is. I mean, that just becomes a background that you can begin to collage up off of. You can even come back with these and using your Gelli plate and some stencils or other ways that you love working on the plate. You can even come back in, use this as sort of a foundation for like a sort of a landscape kind of feel, and maybe even use watercolors or acrylic and actually paint a landscape scene. There is so much you can do with this technique. It's definitely one of my faves. So let me, I'm kind of I just keep on working the paint off my brush, to be honest. And as I want to lighten things up, since I have that gray there, I would leave it, but probably put, maybe just a little bit of this white, the fluid, to kind of lighten that gray up some. And then kind of grab it so that you can kind of work it in. And I have a tendency to work on half and half of the plate because I do kind of like to create this horizon, this sort of two-tone kind of landscape thing. Let's get some, let's go with a brown. Let me see. Let's get some more black soot since we have some gray down here. And I'm gonna grab some licorice too. So this is Seth Apter's licorice, which is more of an eggplant kind of color. And the other one was Tim Holtz's black soot. They're gonna come back again. And grabbing another piece of our watercolor paper. Let's see what we get. Each thing is a surprise. It's all different. I love it. So it's a really fun, kind of mindless way to work with your Gelli plate. Just to create some really beautiful backgrounds. And all you need is alcohol and your paints. And any kind of spray. If you have any kind of, you know, alcohol inks, any kind of sprays you may already have. You know, you can make alcohol inks very easily as well. Just whatever you have. Oh, look at that. Love it. Yes. I just love that stoning pattern. It's so easy. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to get, let's move to Celadon. So Celadon in the Blick matte acrylic. It's one of my favorites. And let's get some of that down. And I'm going to get some white. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of clean my brush a little bit. Okay. And let's get some white. It's going to still be a little dark down here, but that's okay. And start so I think I'm going to use some of Tattered Rose. Get a nice pink color. I kind of put enough on there so I can really sort of affect this white to get it more pink. And then we'll grab, let's get some bundled sage. Since we have that celadon down there, we'll put a little bit of green. And then, you know, you can put small amounts or large amounts of that. Time I've used less of the alcohol. Just get less stoning. So just have fun with this. Kind of vary, you know, vary the amount that you're using. See what happens. And you don't need a lot of paint for this. You can see I'm not using a lot of paint. Yeah, look at that. It's got this nice etheric. And I like the dark around the edges. It really gives like a real nice lithograph kind of, or like a stone litho kind of look to it. Love it. So I'm going to use some more white. I'm going to use a heavy body white. And just going to kind of take it. Oh, I know what I have too that will make a nice red, a rosy tone. I have in the set, I have Wild Rose. I have another one too. Pomegranate. Those are all really good colors to use in this process. Let's do some Wild Rose to really brighten it up against. And a little bit of this. Okay. Wow, look at that. It's going to get some neat stoning there. You can also, the sooner you can get you can put it down, and whatever the stoning, as large as it starts, you know, as it starts expanding, you can, when you put your paper down, it's going to stop the expanding, right? So if you want smaller stoning, just have your paper, put it right down. If you want it to be larger, you can watch it as it grows to kind of get to where you want it to be. And then lay your paper down. So you can kind of play with the stoning pattern as well. Yes, nice. Look at that. Wow, look at that background. Almost looks like it could be a piece of stone or something, like a slice of agate. Love it. I'm going to, okay, so now I can thin it out also by putting the alcohol down. Just have more alcohol, sort of thin it. So in this case, we're already going to have like, let's just see, and just play around, you know. So now this is really thin, and let me just, let's come back and use the Wild Rose. And we're not going to put any additional alcohol down. We're just going to kind of pull it. And let me get a little bit of Gathered Twig. Just a little squirt. Kind of can watch where you get those patterns like that. Okay. So we didn't put any additional stuff down to do the stoning. We're just going to allow the amount of alcohol we put down there to mix. It's also kind of a way to clean the plate as well. And we'll sort of see what happens. Okay. Oh yes, look at that. Gorgeous. I mean, how do you get tired of this? Isn't this just beautiful? And imagine just using this as a base and begin to collage up on this, or use it as a base for continued painting. Okay, so now going to go back and get some white. And I'm going to get some of the quinacridone azo gold in the golden paint. And I'm going to go ahead and get some, mixing my alcohol in now. And just really kind of push this around on the plate. Okay. We can really kind of plan what we want to do here. So kind of creating a specific horizon. And if you know you're painterly, you want to kind of create a specific sort of background there. And then here I would take a little bit of the black soot and really just kind of work it sort of along that horizon line like that. And then just using a little, it's already enough down there. Let me just get another paintbrush. Hold up. And we can literally sort of move this color around, this black, to kind of really sort of create this sort of, you know, sort of horizon line. To kind of get a little bit more painterly. And then we can pull that. So, you know, let your imagination go to whatever it is that you know, your aesthetic is. And because it's so much on this, it's so much moisture on this plate, because of that alcohol, that you literally have so much open time. It's a tremendous amount of open time. Wow, look at that. Lovely. So we'll let that dry. I mean, but that's just good stuff. And we'll pull a couple more. And then I'm going to let this all dry. And we'll come back. With and I'll take one of these and we'll just do a collage. How about that? Sort of the style that we've been doing, that I've been doing. A little darker there. And another paintbrush. I don't want to. I want to kind of keep that white pretty white, so I'm not going to mix my paintbrushes. Get a little bit of alcohol down and just really move this color around. Some more white down here. Okay. So, let's see what we get. I'm just going to get a little bit, just play with a little bit of the stone pattern. Work pretty fast so that they don't get too big. So yeah, we'll pull maybe one more. Wow, pulled a lot. I only think I have one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You believe we've done 10 already? They go fast. Okay. So there we have, and you see we have this really sort of painterly background. So this is, I'm working with just mostly the acrylic, and you can see where the white, I put more, what do you call it? Paint with the alcohol down. Where down here I had less. So you can kind of get these more painterly effects too if you want. And also you can come back. Let's say if I want more color in there, I can literally just put some paint down, and using some alcohol, you can go right and apply right onto the paper as well, because this watercolor paper is going to allow for that. So this way you could get some more, you can control and bring some more of the color in. So don't feel like you can't come back and work right on your print like that. So I think since I've done that, I want to get a little bit more gray in there. But oh, just using this sort of wash is nice too, because you can still see the color underneath it. So you can definitely kind of do the staining like that. You can carry it up. You know, we can do a number of different things. So I think I'll stop there. I've given you a lot of ideas just to kind of work with. We could go on and on. If I don't stop now, I could end up another hour of doing this. But I'll let these dry. I'll come back and show them to you, and then we'll do a collage with them. All right, see you in a minute. Okay, so we are back. Let's look at the papers that we made, and then I'm going to do a quick collage so you can sort of see a finished version of this technique. And so these are the first ones that we did on the paper, the copier paper. And you can see they just, when they're dry, they just really pop. And you get this really stone lithography kind of look to them. For those of you maybe sort of familiar with print processes, you really get this really nice look. And I like this sort of very irregular edge. I just think it adds, so, you know, like for instance, we could take, these are some of the papers that, you know, how I like to make using the tissue paper. So, you know, like if you just wanted to have just an interesting border, you know, something like that. And then if I used, you know, some of my vintage paper, maybe I would tear this. I wouldn't put the whole piece down like this, but I would, you know, tear it and use some portion of it. And then just to get that edge around there. Look at that, how beautiful that edge is with the paper, and then with some, you know, some really beautiful vintage papers. It really gives a very finished, very sophisticated edge to your print. And that's why I really like doing this. I think it's very random. You never know what you're going to end up with, but you can just work with this so beautifully. Can you imagine this and just framing it? Oh, just gorgeous. So let's see. There was this one, here again, and they dry really quickly. Just show you all. That one, this, they're just yummy. You can really see that stone pattern really nicely. This is that last one that we pulled. When they dry, they just really just even become more just enriched as that color really seeps into the watercolor paper. And then this one, this is the last one I pulled because I really wanted to clean the plate, so you didn't see this one. After I turned the video off, I was like, oh, I have this stuff on the plate, so I just cleaned the plate and sort of made this print. Alrighty, so let's see which one. I think I might work with this one. And these, any of the ones that you've done on the copier paper, if you happen to be doing both, these will be great to use in your journal for the week. You know, we can tear these down, use them as background papers. You can use the printables along with them. I mean, these are great to put into the journal as well. Now, also, I was just thinking as I was going through the prints, you know how I use sort of the baby white cleaning the plate technique. Can you imagine taking the stencils and putting it down over there, over this, and doing this sort of cleaning the plate technique where you get this really beautiful light print over top of something like this? That would really be gorgeous too. So just always think about all the techniques that I'm showing, how you can just mix and match them and really walk away with some beautiful prints. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of figure out what we have here. I'm going to use some of the printables. Just kind of grabbing colors right now. Put that there. I think I want to just take, we're going to use, just kind of flipping through these. That color would not look nice with it. I just need a piece. And it's funny how close this kind of thing sort of looks. It's a different technique, but you know, we sort of get this stoning pattern. Like that. Okay. Look over here and see what we have. Let me go ahead and rip this off. I think I like this color because we're picking up a little bit of everything in there. And you know, you can collage, you can, you know, leave as much or as little of the print you want, you know, as a background. Sometimes I cover a lot of it, sometimes I cover a little, it just depends. At this point, I'm very interested in the collage, and I want this right here to form just an interesting background. So this is from the printable, of course. So you can kind of glue this down. So how much of this do I want to? Maybe I'll take some of this away. I want it to, still want to see, I really like focusing on sort of the outline so that I have this whole sort of stone pattern. I mean, this sort of lithographic, litho stone kind of feel to it. So probably something like that. Let's see. Cool to use some of this. You know, this is the paper we made last week. Let's rip a little bit of this, see what we end up with. Here again, I'm just playing with what I have, not quite sure. Kind of just want to layer. My collages, I do a lot of layering. So maybe this back over top of that. And you just really get this old found materials kind of look like you could have just dug in a, you know, a box at a flea market, and all these papers were just balled up in there and you found them and creating something with them. Let me see. Let's see, I may want to put something just like one of these on this outer edge. So now I'm just thinking in terms of the collage. And so I start laying my elements down and just kind of sort of visualizing where things will go. And see what else I have in this drawer. Some goodies. Just want some very let's see what I want here. I kind of want this. Let me just tear this and see what. It's very fragile because this paper is quite vintage. I think I like something like that. And I'll probably get rid of some of that. So let me start gluing this down. Sort of figure out tear this bit off. So probably something like that. Okay, let's go ahead and glue this down. So this is kind of like an example of the way I may work. Let's go ahead and get this piece down first. So I'm get my glue stick. I'm definitely be using my Uhu and my Giotto. So the Giotto I'm going to use to put this heavier weight paper down, and the Uhu is a much softer stick. It's not as aggressive, and I use that for all of my very thin and vintage papers. Yeah, so let me kind of, I don't know exactly where I need to put this, so I'm going to grab this, sort of see where. So I'll put this up a little higher. Definitely want to see that bottom also. And I'll get my, okay. Okay. And this is the paper from the stencil pack. So you see we just get this pattern on pattern. So this will go here. Okay, so I think I'm going to put this down next, because I know I wanted to put this on this outer edge. So we'll get this down. Here we're going to use the Uhu because this is very, it's very old, and it's already kind of tearing down here where there were some natural holes in the piece. So I'm going to get this, kind of put it on this outside edge also. This paper is very thin, so it's going to disappear nicely, but it's also just going to give us a really nice bit of information. See how that really just nearly vanishes? So, okay, so we like that. So now this is going to go down kind of like in here. Let's go ahead and just get, so I'm not going to put a lot of glue. I don't want to try to get it over every spot, because I really kind of want to keep it crinkled and, you know, kind of this texture in it. So I kind of get enough going so that I spread across like that. And then just kind of press down. If there's any places that you, oh, don't want to put this down yet because I want to put, if there's any places that I want to get this underneath there. If there's any place that you want to, what am I even trying to say? Get down more, stick down more. It's easier to add a little glue underneath there, even if we use a little white glue, than it is to try to take glue away because you got glue in too many places. So I kind of want to get it underneath there so we can see it. Lift it up a little more. Just move it up a little hair more. Okay. All right. And this is very translucent paper. A lot of this old paper is very translucent, so you're going to be able to see through a bit too. And see, I'm not really gluing it all the way down because I like this. I want a little lift to it. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. Sort of looks like this, you know, unearthed bit of the past. I like that kind of look. You probably already are well aware. Okay, let's just rip some of this. So I'm going to put this down here. This too, I'm just going to tack down because it'll flatten. You know, this is the paper that we made and it can kind of flatten sort of quickly, and I don't want it to flatten at all. I just want it to hang out here. Let's see, do I want it up a little higher? Do I want it within? I think I want it within the field like that. Okay. And just kind of press it down gently. This glue is really going to hold well. But even after, when I work like this and I'm not putting a ton of glue down, I sort of wait for everything to set up. And then, let me see, which side do I want it on? I think I want it this way. I wait for everything to set up, and then if I need to put little bits of glue different places, I'll just take some white glue and tack things down. But I really like this found objects look, so I'm going to take and just run it right across here. And here again, you could use very easily just use your PVA and put that down as well, whichever. Okay. And then I sort of let everything set up, let it all dry. And I would say this is probably following my 90% rule, maybe even 95. Like, it's nearly done, but I can see myself coming back. And so what I'll do is I'll work these collages and I'll kind of do a number of them just based on inspiration, and then kind of stop at this point because inevitably I'm going to come across something else that I may want to put on here. Like, for instance, I have some of these little rusty pieces, and maybe ultimately I might want to put, you know, some, you know, sort of a rusted kind of metal object down there, right? I don't know what I want to do. I sort of leave that open. So I would pretty much stop here. And then, you know, if I were doing a work session, I'd make a number of these with these papers that we just did. Have fun, just be intuitive, collaging, just, you know, go with the inspiration of it. Don't overthink it, anything like that. And then stop when you get to a really good point. And then I put these away. A lot of times I just put these away in my flat file drawers and just let them marinate. And then when I'm ready to come back to some collaging, you know, I might come across some really neat pieces and things like that. If I were going to put this in a frame, you know, we were talking about pods, this would be pretty here. I could literally lay that down in the collage. Well, that looks good. See, I probably would do something like that because that really makes everything pop. And this would have to go into like a shadow glass frame, or you could put it in a, yeah, shadow glass. Or sometimes I even do these exposed. I might mount this on a piece of canvas and kind of have it as an exposed piece. I would spray a fixative or spray a matte medium over the whole thing just to lock everything in. But that looks good like that. So there we are. It gives you an idea of how you can take water, in this case alcohol, the liquid, as inspiration for these jelly printed backgrounds that just have this just, oh gosh, how do you can't even, you know, like this is a one and done. Every time you pull something, it's going to look different and just fabulous. Ah, love it. And then, yeah, just find inspiration in your studios this week, thinking about water, gratitude for it, and just all the ways you may want to work with it yourself. And yeah, have fun. So if you enjoyed the video, please thumb it up. Let me know that you did. Comment, as you guys always do. I really appreciate it. I love reading them. If you're new to the channel, and it seems like I'm always having new people to the channels, I appreciate that. Make sure to hit that subscriber button and hit all so that you get the notifications every Saturday at 7 p.m. 7 a.m. Pacific time. We come here and we work together. So love you guys. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.